deeper experience. Ancient time, you see different continent, different country, or different sort of tradition. So now, world become smaller, much smaller. So we can easily exchange information. So my number one commitment is try to promote peace of mind or more compassionate mind. Entire 7 billion human beings, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, simply they're taking care about the inner peace. And as I mentioned earlier, I describe the subject of kasa.
Emotion, psychology. Psychology. Philosophy.
As the hygiene of physical. Similarly, hygiene of emotion. So my number one commitment is try to share as much as I can. So the real troublemaker is not outside, but inside. If the inside troublemaker, suspicion, fear, anger, these, if you can maintain or keep quiet, then you surrounded by your enemy, troublemaker. Instead of anger, fear, you may sort of develop a sense of concern of these troublemaker, how ignorance, how sort of also the short-sightedness, like that. So this is my number one commitment. Number two commitment, promotion of religious harmony. It is unthinkable now in the name of religion, it's a fighting and killing. Just next our neighbor country, Syria, Iran, and then Afghanistan, Pakistan, these also sometimes, you see, even within Muslim, the Shia and Sunni, sometimes you see difficult situation. So same Quran, same Allah, it's the same sort of daily prayer, but then fighting. So my number two commitment is try to promote religious harmony. Look, India, all major religious traditions live together over 1,000 years. Generally, very harmonious. Different sort of philosophical sort of views and some debate, that is even within Buddhism, within Nalanda tradition. There are a number of different sort of philosophical view and a lot of debate through centuries. So that's intellectual sort of differences. Very helpful is to open our mind, just to believe one thing, then our mind, our intelligence remain like that. It's a different philosophy, different tradition, then our brain open and see. Like you see garden, one flower, one kind of flower is not much attractive. A garden, not a lot of different sort of flower, different color, different smell, different size, then looks very attractive. So world, now India, I think the human garden through 1,000 years, there are a lot of different flower, with different color, different taste, like that. So, since India is over 3,000 years, you see these different religious traditions live together, so it is possible, religious harmony. So I committed. I think also the Indian Muslim, because they always, you see, since their childhood, they already know there are different religions. So they take for granted different religious tradition. Whereas those countries, only one religion. Now, even Muslim country, even Shia, then in their eye, Sunni, something different. And of course, Buddhism and Hinduism, something different. So now today, world become one small human community. So exchange or visit Muslim sort of brother, sister, come to different places and then sit together and exchange. I have, I developed one sort of Muslim, international Muslim conference, mainly headed by Ladakhi Muslim. Originally, I suggested, and they arranged. So eventually, from time to time, now these days, the illness that is isolated everybody. So I think now, eventually this will change. So you see, from time to time, religious conference, and very useful. And people remain a little bit distance each other. Then had the impression that's different religion. It is different than our religion. Then some kind of little distance. That's the source of problem. Like that. So
thank you, Your Holiness.
I always say, I said, look, India is the example. All major world religious traditions live together. Occasionally, some problem here and there. That sometimes mainly politicians, you see, causing some problem. But basically, India, I think, wonderful.
Your Holiness, thank you. I'd like to ask one more question before turning to our youth peace builders. And that is, today is International Youth Day. And we know that more than half of the world's youth population live in conflict-affected countries. And our partnership over the past 5 years has been based on a shared conviction that youth are absolutely vital for building a more peaceful world into the future. So, Your Holiness, my question for you is, how have young people inspired you personally? And do you have specific advice for them on how to create a more peaceful world? Anything in addition to what you've just said?
I think whole, the atmosphere, this planet, now firstly, economy, global economy, no national boundary. And then more communicate. So younger generation, you see, come through that kind of situation is more broad-minded. In ancient time, more isolate. My own experience, when we were in Tibet, only Buddhism, and to some extent some Muslim. Otherwise, we ourselves isolated. Then come to India as a refugee, more opportunity meeting with people. Then you see these, your view, much sort of broader, very useful. So now younger generation, generally because of these wider contact and information, so I think generally speaking, the younger generation's mind is much more open, much more broad-minded. So I feel, and then as I mentioned earlier, the event in 20th century, now 21st century, now humanity becoming more mature, more realistic. In ancient time, a little bit isolated, then narrow-minded. So now things are, I feel, much better, I feel. Okay.
Yes, let me turn to the wonderful youth peace builders who have joined us this evening and this morning. And the first is Lorena Gomez, who you'll recognize, she was with us last year. And she's from Colombia, where she works on resilience and dialogue through travel and storytelling. Lorena.
Tashidelek, Your Holiness. I'm very happy to see you again. Your Holiness, I want you to know that our time together last October really touched my heart and is now helping me redefine how people in my country think about peace. Normally, we only see it as ceasefire or as a political issue. But now, through webinars and press articles, I'm encouraging others to reflect more about our inner values and to cultivate peace of mind. So, Your Holiness, you have faced significant uncertainty and upheaval in your life. And
yes. I think here. Yes. That's your question.
I continue. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm going to the question. So I was saying, you have faced significant uncertainty and upheaval in your life. And my question is, according to the coronavirus context, how have you coped with uncertainty in your life? And what advice can you give people on how to maintain their peace of mind when they are losing their jobs, their businesses, and their loved ones?
Now, this something, of course, unfortunate. Many people, including many institutions and scientists, they are, you see, making experiment. You see, try to find medicine. But overall, as I already mentioned, as also the Buddhist literature mentioned, so long destructive emotion inside their life always face some problem. So it is quite nature. So eventually, your sort of the mind, through also the through understand the reality, then which basis of all destructive emotion then reduce. So the problem, outside problem, you see, even Buddha cannot remove. Jesus Christ also cannot remove. So long, all spiritual leaders. Then, you see, they mentioned inner world. The theistic religion, like Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim, and so on, you see, they emphasize faith here. And try to tolerance, forgiveness, contentment, like that. So, like Buddhism, you see, the more philosophical sort of field. As I mentioned earlier, quantum physics, nothing exists as appears. So the reality not independently exist. All are mental projection. So that really very, very helpful. You see, when you face problem, not running after problem, but look inner mind, then outside thing, no matter what complicated, but you can keep peace of mind. So that much, according to my own experience, no matter what sort of external things or situation, but your own mind, through practice of shunyata or emptiness, and through practice of altruism, you can keep peace of mind. Those follower of a theistic religion think God. That also, you see, no matter how complicated situation, you can keep their peace of mind. Then, according Buddhism, within Buddhism, according Nalanda tradition, you see, not only just relying on faith, but use reason. So we call analytical meditation. Extremely useful. So I practice these things. So my life, now 86-year-old, whole my life, you see, grow in complicated situation. But I can keep peace of mind because of these knowledge how to keep inner peace. And then one, I think, useful thing is the Buddhism. According to Buddhism, the all sentient being are mother sentient being. We usually describe mother sentient being. And then in any case, realistically speaking, 7 billion human beings are our brothers, sisters. All are the way to born, the way to go. All same. So while alive, you see, destructive emotion there, constructive emotion there, all destructive emotion ultimately based on ignorance. Constructive emotion based on reason. So, with this knowledge, as an academic subject, secular way, I'm trying to share 7 billion human beings how to keep inner peace. Ultimately, the compassionate mind. Basic human nature is, since we are social animal, so compassion is part of our mind. Like that, okay. So I believe eventually 7 billion human beings can be more compassionate through reason. Okay.
Thank you, Your Holiness. We'll turn to our second Generation Change Fellow, Samya Agarwal, who is from India. She was with us last year in 2019, and she is the co-founder of Youth for Peace International. Samya.
Tashitalek, Your Holiness.
Tashitalek.
It's an honor meeting with you today, virtually. After meeting with you in Dharamshala in 2019, I have been practicing compassion, not just with others, but also with myself. Your Holiness, you have taught us all that all religions teach us to love our neighbors and to strive for justice. My question to you is, how can we practice compassion with people who are abusers or perpetrators of injustice? Thank you.
As Buddha, mentioned 4 noble truths: suffering and cause of suffering. So he paid more attention about cause of suffering. Okay, suffering already there. Now we do not want this suffering. So the suffering will not go, just disappear. Since the suffering due to cause, so we must pay more attention about cause. So those people who create problem to other people and don't care about truth or moral principle, actually they are committing, source of the negative commitment because of the negative karma. So in future, they have to face, as you see, the second noble truth. We committed, then first noble truth, suffering, we cannot avoid. So therefore, those people who committed negative karma eventually bring more suffering on themselves. So there is more reason to feel sympathy and compassion. So, and then also, you see, people who create more problem to other. I think on the world, in world history, like Hitler, and then some other sort of, cruel leaders. People always consider something very bad. So then, as a practitioner, you see these, instead of sort of a negative feeling, we must develop sense of concern of these people. According to Indian tradition, we believe life after life, Atma. So different physical, different place, but same self. So this life, one life time creates certain sort of karma. The consequences even within lifetime, or if not, then next life. So we have more sense of concern or compassion to these people who committed negative action. And then also Shantadawa says, your enemy is best teacher of you. You can learn, you see, through their action. If everybody, you see, friendly attitude, then no opportunity, practice of patience. After some troublemaker there, then that's the that creates best opportunity to practice of patience. Okay. Like that. So Shantadawa say, your enemy is best teacher of yourself. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Your Holiness. Our next questioner is Abdiweli Waberi. He was with us in 2018, and he works on peace building through dialogue in his home country of Somalia. Abdiweli?
Your Holiness, it's an honor to see you again. Our dialogue in 2018 has continued to stay with me and helped me maintain inner peace since then to build peace back in home Somalia. Your Holiness, while leadership plays an important role in the fight against the coronavirus, and pandemic has become a global issue, some argue that COVID-19 weakens our democracy since governments are taking cruel actions to combat the virus. So, Your Holiness, my question is, do you see different requirements for leadership in normal times and in times of crisis? Thank you.
Yes, now worldwide certain problem. So now time gone, my nation, my community, that's a part of the humanity. So now humanity facing the problem, so they thinking different nationality, different religion, I think I briefly mentioned. So now that thinking, in ancient time, your own community, your own nation. Now whole world, as I mentioned earlier, 7 billion human beings, the problem, these are facing 7 billion human beings. So now time come, we must work together. Think about humanity, not thinking my nation, my community. The basic humanity, or because of the humanity, 7 billion human beings, they are happy, overcome these problems, then each of nation, each of people get maximum benefit. So now everything, not like ancient time. Ancient time, we Tibetan in our own area. So small community. I think like you, your own country, your own area, you see, more or less isolate and self-sufficient. Now today's world, something different. So we have to think about humanity. That's my view, and I always say, share with other people. Okay. Thank you.
Your Holiness, do you have time for 1 or 2 more questions from our youth leaders?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. And our next questioner is Faraz Khair from Syria, who works to deliver humanitarian assistance to Syrian refugees. Faraz.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, Your Holiness. It's a pleasure meeting you again, even virtually this time. Our last meeting was inspiring. I have learned a lot from how you accumulate and spread knowledge. Your Holiness, the globe is currently sharing a common challenge, COVID-19. My question is, how can we use this distress as a chance to unite humanity, encourage peace, and even help humans understand the suffering they cause for others? Thank you.
You see, difficult situation, in a way, helpful, you see, to bring unity. Now, for example, we Tibetan, when we were in Tibet, different part of Tibet, you see, sometimes you see there's certain sort of say, feeling of we and they, like that. Once we reach India as a refugee, now very basis of we and they now no longer there. We have to think common interest. So, difficult situation, you see, in a way, creates, you see, also the more inner value and unity and work together. So now to the world, there are different sort of also illness, and then one serious matter is global warming. So according to some scientists, now within next few decades, the global warming reach such a level, then many of the rivers will dry. And then eventually there is, like Afghanistan, when we passing through air, we can see the ancient time, there are number of lakes, rivers. Now, most of them, you see, reduce. It become small stream or small lake, and the otherwise bare land to desert. So that's according to our scientists, not the religious prediction. The scientists now they say global warming, each decade warmer. Even Dharamsala, this is my over 60 years I stay here. So early part, some more snow, then gradually less. So this indicates the sign of global warming. So now, while we still human facility for our life still there, and we must work together and share each other and think about humanity. That's important. So there are a lot of problems. Now time come to share each other. Then among them, this global level, rich and poor people always remain. Richer, making more money. So this gap, rich and poor, international level and national level. Now this gap, this I think we must pay more attention to reduce this gap. Okay.
Our next questioner, Your Holiness, is Hadi Kufala. She was with us in 2018. She's from Libya, where she's a human rights activist and journalist. Hadi?
Hello, Your Holiness. It's such an honor being here with you again. And as I learned from you in 2018, that we can get over all of these internal conflict consequences by believing in power of compassion. And now, as you know, the displaced people are suffering greatly with the COVID-19. And these people are physically and emotionally affected by war and health crisis. So my question is, from your experience with displacement, how can displaced people take care of themselves spiritually?
Now here, according to my own experience, the thinking oneness of 7 billion human beings. I said, that's very helpful. When I left our own country, India, another human community. Then of course, we have 1,000 years, some special relations. With that feeling, oneness of human being, when I visit Europe, say, color, shape, their face, and particularly their nose. You see, there are little differences, but emotional level, same. Mental level, due to certain cultural heritage, little differences, otherwise basically same. So the sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings is very useful wherever you go. Still human land. So if we Tibetan, you see, there's too much sort of emphasis, we Tibetan something unique, then lost our own country and come to a different country, then feel something different. But the the Buddhist sort of the terminology, something we usually call mother-centered being. All sentient beings, and including all also the human being on this planet, we are, you see, a mother-centered being. So that is very helpful, is it to think oneness of 7 billion human beings. Small differences, that's on a superficial level. Deeper level, we are same. Okay.
So, Your Holiness, last question is from Hassam Meneja from Tunisia.
Yes.
Your Holiness, it's an honor to see you again. Our dialogue in 2019 has been a remarkable event, and your words have been resonating with me ever since, especially on the plight for human rights, democracy, and freedom for all. Your Holiness, with COVID-19, we have seen governments exploit the crisis to further their own agendas, whether enforcing authoritarian measures or cracking down on civil society and limiting the spaces they're operating in. My question is, what advice would you give to peace builders who face more restrictions and authoritarianism in the conflict-sensitive areas they must navigate? Thank you.
Tunisia. Now, I feel there is a real gap. Say, mental level, the thinking, old way of thinking, we. Then the situation, the reality, much change. So that's, I think, source of problem. In ancient time, you see, your own nation, more or less isolated, and think your own country. Now today, that's just my nation, and including my party, my group, and eventually, you see, dictator. You see, these are according the ancient sort of situation, there's something relevant. Now, today's world, no longer that reality. So, we have to think we rather than I. So, Tunisia, like Tunisia, I think we need wider contact with other people. Now, including tourists visit different place, different culture, different language. And then meantime, you see, through education, we 7 billion human beings are same human being who live on this same planet. And as I already mentioned, global economy and all these now, all thinking, just we, I, that gone. Now the new reality, we 7 billion human beings have to live together, and under that circumstances, just sort of exclusive sort of right or thinking about your own community, your own nation, within one country, due to different religious faith or little sort of differences or different part of your own country, Tunisia, a different part. You see, there are some differences. Now, these are minor. Okay. Now, time come, we have to think more, because wider perspective than not just thinking your own community. Okay.